Thank you so much for coming on this hot summer day. I'm joined today by Aqua Porter, Executive Director of the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative, and also my Housing Quality Task Force co-chair, Carol Wheeler, who is the city's of Rochester's Manager of Housing, who was also co-chair of the task force, Linda Kingsley, our Corporation Counsel, who also served on the task force, and some of our other members of the Housing Quality Task Force are also here, along with some city staff that are here. As we said, we would give quarterly updates on our Housing Quality Task Force and where we are. Now, first off, just let me start by saying that this is my 613th day in office. 613 days. And in those 613 days, we've done more to address housing probably than have been done in a long time, and in a short period of time, with measurable, specific things that I think we could all be proud of. We're going to give this update on some of the accomplishments since we met last, and as you know, we started this last February, so we said that we would give periodic updates, and we want to make promises, and we want to make sure we keep those promises. So this will be our update, and we may give one more before the end of the year. We are making notable progress in 5 areas that the task force identified. And if you remember, the 5 areas were code enforcement, facilitating responsible ownership, repair and improvement programs, increasing the supply of quality housing, and improving communication and education. Key to our work is communication with and the education of property owners, rental property owners, and tenants. Last month, we convened more than 400 rental property owners and managers at our 3rd Landlord Summit. We rolled out our new and updated code enforcement policies, demonstrated the new technologies to streamline and make interactions with the city more transparent, and shared city and local resources for everything from property rehab to climate-friendly homes. There was also access to a resource fair with the city and local organizations, and a computer lab was offered where city staff helped property owners create accounts in our new property management portal. Carol will tell you more about the portal in a few minutes. Before we begin, I also want to introduce you all to an individual that has taken on a new job in the administration, Matt Simonis, who is the city's manager of zoning. Matt, are you here? So I want folks to know who you are. There you are, Matt's back there. Matt has worked for the city for a while on various roles, and specifically he's been in zoning, but he is now our manager of zoning. The city continues to move forward with the planned release of the zoning alignment draft code, map, and the environmental impact statements on September 20th. The city has consistently been communicating with neighborhood leaders, residents, and other neighborhood stakeholders about the upcoming draft since the city's last round of community input sessions. Next up, we will hold another round of informational meetings and public hearings this fall and winter for continued engagement about zoning. Zoning rewrites happen once in a generation, and I drew the short straw for it to happen during my tenure. That along with our reevaluation. So these are big things that we are tackling, but as I said, my job is to solve problems like the wolf, and we are solving it. You will see and hear a lot from Matt and the city zoning in a few months. So for those of you that don't know ZAP, that's Zoning Alignment Project. We love acronyms in government. ZAP is part of both the city's 2034 comprehensive plan and the Housing Quality Task Force, and this is to ensure we keep city agencies and citizens up to date on those efforts. I'm excited to have the team standing up here with me to share more details on the continued progress. We will kick it off with Aqua Porter, who I said, and today is Aqua's birthday. So happy birthday, Aqua. Happy birthday. She, as I said, she's Executive Director of the Rochester Monroe County Anti-Poverty Initiative and co-chair of the Housing Quality Task Force. And as you know, RMAPI is a major partner with the city of Rochester and is doing great work. So Aqua, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, thank you. Housing is the basis of stability and security for an individual or family, the center of our social, emotional, and sometimes economic lives, a home should be a sanctuary, a place to live in peace, security, and dignity. Our MAPI is a fervent believer that everyone in our community deserves to live in a safe, inclusive, and opportunity-rich neighborhood. An opportunity-rich neighborhood is one which is characterized by a housing system that offers affordable, safe, and desirable options, and where residents have choices in safe, reliable, and high-frequency transportation, where public safety systems are effective and residents report feeling safe in their neighborhoods, and employers create employment opportunity in underserved neighborhoods, and where government ensures neighborhoods have well-maintained infrastructure. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition states that housing is the key to reducing intergenerational poverty and increasing economic mobility. In fact, research shows that increasing access to affordable housing is the most cost-effective strategy for reducing childhood poverty and increasing economic stability and mobility in the United States. Stanford economist Raj Chetty found that children who moved to lower poverty neighborhoods saw their earnings as adults increase by approximately 31%, an increased likelihood of living in a better neighborhoods as adults, and lowered likelihood of becoming a single parent. Moreover, children living in stable, affordable homes are more likely to thrive in school and have a greater opportunities to learn inside and outside the classroom. Our MAPI is committed to breaking the cycle of poverty by shifting power to enable upward mobility for individuals and families. The recommendations that the Housing Quality Task Force made in June 2022 to Mayor Evans, and which this team has made significant progress, underscores this administration's commitment to improving the quality, accessibility, and affordability of housing. We must continue this work and expand affordable quality housing options in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aqua. One of the many things I asked this task force to do was to get creative with existing programs. While we know we don't have an unlimited supply of dollars, there are many things that we can do to make a difference. A case in point is the Rochester Land Bank Corporation. The Land Bank's mission is to return underutilized properties to productive use and preserve and create quality housing, which enhances quality of life in our neighborhoods and encourages economic opportunities. We are moving forward with expanding the reach of what the Land Bank can do. Just last week, we announced that we will accept an offer from the owners of the last cobblestone house in Rochester to donate the property to the Land Bank so that we can issue an RFP to have it preserved, rehabbed, and put back into good use and hopefully become a catalyst for growth in the area. And we have too many properties that are like that. And our hope is to use the Land Bank to take properties that still have good bones so that way they can be put back to good use. And in the past, the Land Bank only purchased property through tax foreclosures once a year, limiting its ability to act on opportunities that arise in between. They are identifying more privately held properties that they can acquire immediately, like vacant structures that can be put back into Rochester's housing inventory with a little bit of rehab. Small shifts like these can profoundly impact the city's fabric. So we're not going to wait once a year for the Land Bank to say, oh, here's some properties we can do. There was nothing preventing us from doing that. And because I like to solve problems, I said, let's see how we can accelerate this. Let's take more properties. Take more properties, get them rehabbed, and get them back to life in our city. These small shifts, this is how you shift the fabric of our city. So I want to ask Carol Wheeler, who's our manager of housing, to come and give some updates on our city's efforts that touch on the importance of high-quality, affordable housing. Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. Getting properties in the hands of people who care about providing safe and equitable housing is vital to our mission. A new approach we are taking to ensure responsible ownership is the Civics Property Management Portal that the Mayor talked about, and the Property Manager Code Compliance Score, which we announced at the Landlord Summit last month. The city's new Civics Property Management Portal offers a suite of self-service functions to help property owners and managers better oversee and maintain their housing portfolios and address code violations. Some of the features include designating and updating building owner and property manager contact information, viewing list of all open code violations per property via the notice and orders, and submitting work schedules for open code enforcement cases. Additional features will be launched in the coming months, including the ability to configure email notifications and submit certificate of occupancy applications. The goal of this new system is to provide up-to-the-minute information and streamline our efforts to ensure that working with the city is timely and transparent. To create an account, go to the city's website and search for Civics Property Management Portal. We also announced the Property Code Compliance Score, a new online tool that provides an objective, and there's that word again, transparent scoring system that will be used to, one, drive improvements in code compliance by rental property owners and managers, better target the city's enforcement efforts, and give tenants, this is great, give tenants better insight on a manager's track record when deciding who to rent from. This tool was not created in a vacuum. It was created in partnership with the Landlord and Tenant Advisory Committee members, which is convened by the city to provide input on proposed policies and initiatives like this one. The group is comprised of leaders of all the known landlord associations, small landlords, tenants, and community advocates. The committee provided valuable feedback which was incorporated into the final design of the scoring system. Every rental property is scored nightly based on its code compliance status. Owners and managers then receive a portfolio average score based on the scores of the property they own or manage. To check scores or learn more about how the scores are calculated and how they can be improved, go to the city's website and search for Code Compliance Score. Another area in which we're making progress is increasing the supply of quality housing. Many neighborhoods we know have experienced disinvestment, which has resulted in profound and ongoing challenges that we see today. By the Block is working to strengthen these neighborhoods by generating investment and creating excitement. By the Block supports current and new homeowners by investing in clusters of high quality, attractive, affordable, energy efficient, owner-occupied housing. These homes are affordable to households with incomes under 80% of the median income for this area. And I'm proud to announce that the first cluster of 6 of the 24 homes in our first Buy the Block program in Thomas and Uyghur Streets are occupied. The new homeowners have moved in, and the construction of the next 10 is underway. And the purchase offers are being signed for these homes now. The final 8 homes for this area will be under construction by the end of this year and early part of 2024. And we are looking forward to the implementation of our second Buy the Block in another neighborhood in Quadrant in 2024. With this program, the city and our partners are matching the commitment to Rochester that the longtime neighborhood residents have made for years, if not generations. Lastly, home rehab programs are critical to keep our aging housing stock in good repair. We not only want to build new houses, but we want to make sure that the existing homes are in good repair as well. We have the funds and the partner programs to help owners and tenants address issues, but currently we are experiencing a backlog of work because of lack of general contractors. The city needs skilled and licensed contractors in window and door replacement, porch repair, roof replacement, siding, minor electrical and plumbing, painting, and more. These projects are perfect for small contractors needing steady work. Minority and women-owned business owners are strongly encouraged to apply. To be considered for our contractor list, search on our city's website, Home Repair Grants, or call 585-428-6963. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. There was a lot in there, and I hope that everyone got the opportunity to capture a lot of the great progress that we have there, the technology that is now available, the work that's being done on creating more housing. These are all key things that are absolutely critical for us to get this work done. And all of that involves partnership. I know people get tired of me saying it's not me but we, but that is not me but we. This is a collaborative approach that's taken place from the private sector, the folks internally at City Hall, all working together to get this done. Now, we got a lot of carrots. Sometimes you got to have a stick. Got to have a stick sometime. And another critical partnership in the city is the work our housing attorney and code enforcement. The work of our housing attorney and code enforcement is extremely important. We have minimal vacancies remaining in code enforcement, and our buildings and compliance office is actively hiring for those positions. They also work with our neighborhood service centers to hire and train part-time code enforcement inspectors in each quadrant to enforce both city and state and property codes along major arteries. Arteries. With these teams working together, we can close the loop on bad actors and consistent offenders and move the city and residents forward. This is what I mean by, I often talk, last time I said that we were going to add some teeth. There were baby teeth before, but I said now there's saber-tooth tiger teeth. Someone found that funny, and I now have on my desk a saber-tooth tiger as a reminder of the teeth that we need to have. Because we just can't talk about it, we have to do it. So you see us doing more demolition hearings. Yes, if we have dilapidated structures and people think that they can do this in the city, they wouldn't do this in Pittsford or anywhere else, we are going to take the property and demolish it, or we will have the land bank take it and we're going to get it back to useful life. There is no reason why we should have dilapidated, burned out structures in our city. period. Now, it's going to take us time to get to all of them, but you better believe we're going to get to them. And we're going to get to them because as long as I'm around, we're going to use not baby teeth, but saber-toothed tiger teeth. And I have also given a pair of saber-toothed tiger teeth to Linda Kingsley and her department in the Corporation Council and the housing attorney that works there. So I would like Linda to come up and discuss some of the ways in which she is using those tools, those teeth, to deal with problematic properties and people who are not doing what they need to do at the expense of the 200,000 plus residents that live within the city of Rochester. Linda.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. As the mayor noted, this administration has been focusing heavily on addressing the issues related to quality housing and safe structures within the city. Deteriorated, vacant, and neglected properties impact the entire neighborhood and reduce the value of adjacent properties. They create a fire risk to the neighborhood and to the firefighter who has to respond to those fires. They additionally become locations where drug and sex trafficking occur and often become unsafe havens for the homeless. So I briefly want to talk about where we stand on a few of the pieces of legislation that we've told you about that were adopted previously. Vacant property registry. Owners will pay a fee if their property remains vacant for a period of 60 days or more, based on the number of units in the residential property, and there's a separate set of fee structures for commercial properties. The fee increases if they renew for a second year. But more importantly than the registration is the requirement that they submit a plan for the property. You can't just say, I'm registering this property, it will sit vacant as long as I please. You have to tell us, are you going to rehab it? Are you actively selling it? Are you demolishing it? What is the plan for the property? The registry goes into effect January 1st, 2024, and we've been actively educating landlords so they are aware of that obligation by that date. Landlord-Tenant Bill of Rights. This is a way to educate both landlords and tenants of both their legal rights and responsibilities. Both sides have rights, both sides have responsibilities. They will be distributed in English and in Spanish in a number of ways, including an annual mailing, which will occur on January 1st of 2024 to all landlords and all tenants throughout the city. Starting now, they will also be attached when someone makes a C of O application. Their C of O will come with a Bill of Rights attached. If we go to an apartment and inspect it, we will give the tenant and the landlord a copy of the Bill of Rights. So the informal distribution, and I believe you're each getting a copy of it, this is what it looks like in English and in Spanish, and it very simply, but in good detail, explains to everyone what they need to be doing and gives links to all the right resources, again, both for landlords and tenants. We have increased the code enforcement fine structure that went into effect August 1st of 2023. So we are comparable with the other major cities in New York State, and we reduced the time between tickets from 60 days to 30 days. A fine cannot be so low or so infrequent that a landlord can write it off as a cost of doing business. It has to hurt, and that's what we've done. LLC disclosure. We've added language to various provisions of the code, and that is effective now, that requires property owners to disclose who is behind their LLCs. You have an absolute legal right to own a property as an LLC. There's a lot of legitimate reasons why a landlord would not want to risk their personal assets by owning a second or third home in their name. But you have to tell us who is behind it. And this will allow us to really better identify who the problem landlords are. Because now we'll know, okay, there's 10 LLCs, but they're all related back to John Smith. And now we need to focus some of our housing attorneys' time on John Smith as opposed to other landlords. As I just mentioned and the mayor mentioned, About 10 months ago, we added a full-time housing attorney to the law department, and his job is not to do the day-to-day operations of code enforcement officers, but to find and address the worst of the worst landlords. He does not and cannot go to every Municipal Code Violations Bureau hearing with each code enforcement officer. It's not necessary, it's not humanly possible. But instead, he focuses on the more complex litigation involving the most serious cases. These actions are brought in city court and state Supreme Court, and often involve the appointment of receivers and the imposition of substantial fines. To date, in the short time he's been here, and as I said, he's been here 10 months, let's figure it's been about 8 months that he's been up and running. In these special proceedings, fines in excess of $155,000 have been awarded to the city against various landlords, and it will only keep coming in larger and greater numbers. With the establishment of this dedicated position, we have also been able to drastically increase the number of demolition hearings. When there is no other recourse on rehabilitation of a house, it can't just sit there. Again, drug dealing, other criminal problems, homeless inhabitants, there's so many reasons why it should not be there. In 2022, before we had a housing attorney, there were 45 demolition hearings in the year. We are expected to exceed 100 in 2023, and it's my expectation that 2024, the number will get even bigger. So in sum, I believe NBD and law have worked together now to make significant strides in the area of quality housing in conjunction with the Housing Quality Task Force and their recommendations, and we will continue to strive to protect the responsible tenant and the responsible landlord while seeking action against those who don't take their roles seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you for your work and your team. Again, this was a recommendation that came from the Housing Quality Task Force, this landlord-tenant bill of rights. It's important for people to know where everyone stands. And then also the progress that we made. So every quarter, we will continue to update on the progress that we are making as it relates to housing. I said that this committee, this task force, was not just going to be one of those task forces where the paper sits on someone's desk and someone says 10 years from now, remember those recommendations that the Housing Quality Task Force happen? What happened to those? Well, you just got an update on what's happening with some of those recommendations. And you are seeing those recommendations in action by some of the things that you just heard. And I believe you may have also gotten this, which also gives updated recommendations. Now, being that people have very, very short memories, we will make sure that all of this information is cataloged on the website and that we continue to press that out. But media, you can do us a great favor by making sure that you link to all these items, or that you put them on your website yourself, or your Twitter, or any of the stuff that you might use. That will be very, very important, because this also, and I don't want to go through every single detail in minutia, it talks about the actual numbers of what we did as it relates to code enforcement. It talks about streamlining fines. So this document lays that out, and I know that I'm hoping that all of you will have that. The last point I wanted to make before I open it up for questions is that we continue to work to increase the supply of quality housing that Carol talked about. That is important. In 2023, we have to redouble our commitments to say that we should not have people living in dilapidated structures that none of us standing up here or any of you sitting out there would want to live in. That has to be the standard. So if someone asks me what's the standard, that's the standard. Would you want to live in it? And if the answer is no, or you have to pause, then that's the reason why we have to have the saber-toothed tiger teeth to hold those individuals accountable for properties that are not fit for man, woman, or mouse. Some of these properties, mice shouldn't even want to live in. And that's why we have to make sure that we take care of it. If we are going to have a more just and beautiful city, we want to make sure that we do that. I want to thank our partners that are here. I want to thank my colleagues in city government for all of their work that they are doing to ensure that we have high quality, affordable housing in our city that is just not rental, but also owner occupied. And for us also dealing with commercial properties that are an eyesore. We are also taking those down, as you also heard from Linda. So with that, I will take any questions that you have related to our updated Housing Quality Task Force, including our Landlord-Tenant Bill of Rights, or any other things related to housing that you might have. If I can't answer the question myself, I have some of my technical experts that are here that can jump in and answer the question, but I'm sure I'll be able to answer the vast majority of them that you might have. Who has a question first? Mr. Breen.
Mayor, you've gone over changes, positive changes. Do you think that the people who live in the city and work in the city are feeling that right now?
I think that I think people are feeling it and seeing it, but people won't be satisfied until there are 0 dilapidated or vacant structures. Because guess what? If you still live in a property that hasn't been addressed yet, you're saying that's nice what the mayor just said, but they haven't gotten to mine yet. Or I might still be living in that. Or if you're living in a 14605 zip code, you know what the median income is in the 14605? What's the median income at Berkeley, you think, in the 14605 zip code? Take a guess. What's the median income? What do you think? Boom, right on the, that's exactly what it is, $18,000. So if you're living in a property, and let's say, and that's the median, let's say that's the middle, right? So you're living somewhere in 14605, and you might be living in a property where all you can afford is a property that is dilapidated and run down, and you're scared that if you say something about that property, you may be out and not have anywhere to live, and you're paying this maybe a low amount of rent and the place is torn apart, you're not going to be satisfied yet, and you're not feeling it yet. So this conversation about the feel goes beyond just housing. It also goes to economic mobility, economic opportunity, job training, and other things to ensure that people can move to better properties so they feel as though they have a voice and can speak up and live in a place where the ceiling isn't falling in. So not everyone is feeling it yet. We have work to do. And that's why we give these updates. The updates are to provide fuel to say that we are working to get to everyone, but we are not standing up here saying that we've arrived and that we can declare victory. Because guess what? You can't declare victory in 613 days. But you damn sure can give yourself a pat on the back. And that's what we're doing. Because I think that we've deserved that because we said what we were going to do, and we're doing it. Garcia. I think that education is extremely important. So we're making sure, that's why we're having this update today, to let people know constantly what's happening. And that's why, government sometimes moves slow. I would have liked to have done these things immediately after we passed them. But we're saying this is coming in 2024. The Tenant Landlord Bill of Rights, that this is coming. This is the soft launch of this, right? But come January, they will get them. So continuous conversation about what we're doing so that way people are being brought along the way on what we're doing. Education is extremely important. And then saying it in different spaces and stations where people are multiple times. Because we live in a very microwave time frame where I'm here at this press conference talking to you about all these things. I can guarantee you that a reporter will ask me in 3 weeks what we're doing about affordable housing. I can guarantee it. Because something else is going to happen. They're going to go cover the weather, or somebody dies in a car accident. Something's going to happen, and then attention is going to shift away from this. But for us, our attention has not shifted away from this. We are continuously beating this drumbeat, and that's why we're making sure that we give these updates on a regular basis, and this is why we're enlisting people like you to help us to continue to push out the information. But the best places where this information is going is by going to those places to be able to do that, but it has to be constant, and that's why we're doing this on a quarterly basis, so people will understand that we're not forgetting this, and we're warning landlords, hey, by 2024, there's this vacant registry that we're going to have. So you got 3 to 4 months to start thinking about what you're going to do with this property that's been sitting here, dilapidated, inhabited by rats. How are you going to fix this property? Are you going to sell it? Because if you're not going to, you're going to start accumulating fines. So you better talk to some developers or somebody that you can sell this property to, so that way Ms. Smith can stop dealing with this property that's next to her that might catch fire. And we've seen what happens if we don't do that. So Isabel, it's consistent, persistent conversations and connections with people who are affected, and doing that on an annual basis, regular basis, but also using technology, using our website, using our social media channels to continue to push these things out, but also word of mouth. That's how we're making sure that people know what is happening here. Andrietta. I'm sorry, one follow-up, and then Andrietta. Yes. Well, I think the quarterly update is mainly for you and the media. That's what the quarterly update is for. But for other folks, we do this constantly, almost every single day. So let me be clear, the quarterly update is for you, right? So you can know what's going on, because we have to remind you that, and I think your question is a very good one that just illustrates my point. We have to remind you that in the interim of these quarterly updates, these folks are working with the providers and the partners and the other stuff that you don't see every day. So the quarterly update is for, you know, the broader community, for the media to know. But this work happens every day in and day out. This system that's going to be up, it's just not going to be built on December 31st, 2024. It's being developed and built now. The conversations with the landlord-tenant Bill of Rights, these conversations are happening with the members of my staff that sit on the Housing Advisory Board, that are members of the Housing Quality Task Force, that are working with organizations like the Housing Council and other organizations and tenant organizations. So all of that work is taking place on a regular basis. And when we come here, we're simply talking about the work that's taken place in the past, and then the work that's going to continue to go on, forward. But yes, you have to do this more than a quarter, because if you only do it quarterly, people will definitely forget. It has to be daily, and it has to be like brushing your teeth. I wish that people would hang this up on their mirror, so that way they can be reminded every day when they brush their teeth, if they do brush their teeth. Mr. Andrietta.
This question might be best placed to Linda, I'm not
Yep.
sure. But one of the common complaints we hear is that a rental property doesn't have a CFO.
Yes. I'll let Linda answer that question, but I will say here is one challenge. Let's say, for example, because I like having real world examples. Because, you know, sometimes, and when you're like me, see, I do this thing called Mayor on the Block. You ever heard of Mayor on the Block? You heard about what I do, Mayor on the Block? Well, the XXI should cover it, or city, whatever you cover it. Your city, XXI? They're together, right? So Mayor on the Block is that, so last week 2 weeks ago, we were on West Main Street, and what we do on Mayor on the Block is we go to a neighborhood in the city without cameras. I don't put it on social media. You know, most elected officials, they put everything they do on social media. They don't do anything, but they put it on social media. They don't do much work. It's all social media. And you say, okay, what did you do? Oh, I just posted something. They're laying in their bed somewhere posted. But one of the things I learned, Dave, is that you ask a very important question, because let's say you have a property owner and you have a family with 2 kids living in a property, and that property doesn't have a C of O. The property should have a C of O, but where would that family go if you kicked them out without that C of O?
That's the question.
And I think that's the challenge. But your question is can you make sure that you can get one before if it goes to market? And I think that's our challenge, because sometimes there are bad actors who will go and rent a property before that C of O is issued, which is a big no-no, which should not be done. And the question is can we prevent that? I think we work hard to try to do that, but we must realize there will be some that will fall through the cracks. Now, the question will be, what is the recourse? And Linda, I don't know if you want to touch on what the recourse is if someone goes and decides, hey, I'm going to rent this property even though it doesn't have a C of O.
I mean, the mayor's largely discussed the challenges. I mean, obviously, we can't control the rental, the real estate market, and there's no law that says before you go to a realtor and list your property, you've got to get a C of O. There's a law that you cannot inhabit a property without a C of O. You mentioned the backlog. You know, there is an obvious backlog from COVID, when there was a long period of time when inspectors couldn't go out. And I think NBD, it's more a function of NBD than law. NBD is whittling away through that as fast as they can. I think things are treated differently when a landlord has applied for C of O and we're getting them through the process and they're actively engaged in the process, and a landlord who has just decided to rent without a C of O. We can immediately bring them into city court if we become aware of it, because that is a violation. We would certainly encourage tenants to ask to see a C of O. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that there aren't people who have less choices, who might feel that I'm not going to get the landlord angry at me before I even move in, and won't ask that question. But it is a good question for a tenant to ask, because if they don't have the C of O, that might be an indication right away that there are certainly problems. And I assume as we get this portal up and running, a lot of that information is going to be much more easily accessible to tenants.
Just so I understand, sorry for the follow-up.
Yeah.
The law is that you can't inhabit a property.
A rental property without a C of O.
But is there a law against renting a property without?
Listing a property, you mean? No, it's the inhabiting that's the law.
That's right. Well, so again, did you hear what I just said? Would you, let's say, are you going to kick out a woman? Well, I mean, we will work with them to make sure that they get the C of O and assess the situation. Because, for example, let's say it's 20 degrees outside. You're going to ask a newborn baby and her family to leave if they don't have a C of O? That's the challenge that we face. That's the challenge that we face. But I'm about prevention. So you know what we need to do? We need to make sure that people understand this, and that you don't, here's the message, don't rent an apartment without a C of O. That's what we need to be able to do. And that's that ongoing education. So Isabel, when you're on Channel 8, you can say, don't rent an apartment without a C of O. That's what we need to have happen. But as we know, a lot of folks don't believe they need to follow the law. And that's when we have to deal with it. That's when the saber-toothed tiger teeth have to come out. But I believe that we're getting to a place, we must get to a place, to our nirvana, where people are going to say, you know what? I'm going to get a C of O before I decide to rent this property. But we have to be realistic and know that there will be individuals that won't do that. Okay, I can take 2 more questions, then I got to wrap up. Isabel, you asked one already. I'll come back to you. DNC, right? DNC? Yes.
You said you were looking for contractors to rehab existing,
Yes.
especially companies owned by minorities and women.
Yes.
Took any efforts to recruit those contractors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we are NBD, Commissioner Miller, I don't know if he's here. We talk about this all the time. We have a great roofing contractor program where we do roofs. We have a lottery, right? And we pull names out, but sometimes it is extremely hard for us to find contractors because of supply chain, because of all those other issues. I think that one of the things that we're working on doing is redoubling our efforts to say we have these great programs where it can be a win-win for businesses to be able to get dollars in their pocket to rehab or fix up these homes that are in city neighborhoods. But that is a longer conversation about workforce development, about supply chain, about companies that are available. As you know, during COVID, there was a squeeze that was put on. So if you wanted a roof or just basic, sometimes painting in your house, the time frame was so very long. So our challenge is that we are sometimes having problems finding contractors in general to come fix and rehab some of these roofs with a lot of the programs that we have. And if you look on the back, our repair and improvement programs are pretty robust, but in order for them to be successful, we have to have people that can come and fix those things. So yes, we continue to redouble our efforts and put out outreach to say, if you are interested in being a contractor for the city, we want you to reach out to MBD, we want you to reach out to our purchasing department, get your name on a list so we can have you help rehab these properties. It's very, very important. Okay, Ms. Garcia, you will be the last question unless someone has something. Then I'll take 1 or 2 off-topic questions. I might take 1 off-topic question off podium, right, Barbara? Okay, so Ms. Garcia.
Thank you, kindly. I'm not
Yes.
sure if it's, if you'd like to address this or if it might be better for Linda, but just in terms of the progress, just the monthly snapshot of those harsher fines for the landlords that month.
Well, it's been 1 month since August, right? She said since August. So 1 month, I mean, I think we're still assessing that, right? I mean, there's not.
I mean, obviously, it makes it more painful to violate the law. So we expect that that will have an impact. We know that some of these large fines that we're getting in city court and in state Supreme Court now are causing landlords, when we bring one of these Supreme Court actions, to start talking settlement right away. So we do know that our work is having an impact.
Isabel, you ever heard the saying, money talks? And you know what walks? And we got a lot of that. Okay.
Can I just follow up on the question before on contractors?
Yes.
So, like, does the city pay a competitive rate? I mean, I'm sure that at least the contractor knows he's getting paid by the city as opposed to.
Yeah, the city always pays competitive rates. Absolutely. When you look at what the city pays, we pay competitive rates. I don't think it has anything to do with rates or dollars. It has everything to do with supply chain and what's available. It has nothing to do with the money. I think people see government as a honeypot, so I don't think people are ever concerned about the rates that we pay. If anything, but it's about the availability. It's about the availability of workers. If you talk to any building trade, they're short on workers. We are just short. This is a major clarion call that we have for workers. Since COVID has changed, we can have a whole nother press conference on workforce. I mean, it's a challenge, and it's something that is a challenge, but I see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to have and support a new roofing company or a company that wants to work and do work with the government, because it's not just us. There are other municipalities that are doing work. So this is really an opportunity. It's an entrepreneurial economic development opportunity for people to take advantage of dollars that are available to uplift the community. And I can't think of a better way to make money than putting a new roof on a house for a senior who's been living in a dilapidated structure that has lost its value because the roof is off, and she wants to age in place there. That's an opportunity. And I would urge anyone that wants to make a difference to give us a call, and we'll put you to work. Okay? That's a good note to end on. Thank you very much. Any off topics? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.